It's going to be quite relaxed, informal, provocative, exciting, but subtle. But would like you to know who you are going to be communicating with. And so I'd like some introductions of the stone-faced panelists here. And I'm going to turn my chair so I can actually see who they are. But we have 4 microphones. I will hold one, and the 4 of you can figure out how to divide 3. But if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves to our gathered family here. Maybe name, where you're from, number of years in God, number of years in Gyan, and the number of souls you've revealed God to. And you can just estimate if you want to. Anywhere between 0 and 1 million is fine.
Om Shanti. My name is Anthony, and I currently live in Canada, and I've been in Gyan about 23 years, and I've always been very sensitive, in my world anyway, as to how to reveal what's going on. And so it's a subject that's close to my heart. I can't tell you how many I've revealed God to, but for sure they're doing their best to continue the process of revealing God. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, good morning. The name is Ruth. I'm currently in South Korea, in Seoul, in Baba's center there. I've been there for 7 years. 7 years. I've been in Gyan 10 years, took Gyan in Malaysia. But the body's from England. It's half white English and half Nigerian. So, how many souls have I revealed God to? Gosh, what a question. But I think I'll pass on that one. But I'll continue the process for as long as the Kalpa allows me to. Om Shanti.
I think Om Shanti. My name is Anna, and I was born in Greece, both physically and spiritually. And I've been in knowledge for about 20 years. And for the last 5 or 6 years I've been in the Middle East. And yes, I'm not going to answer the last question. I don't know.
Sister Anna's growing a new voice. She's lost hers, and now she's trying to return to her normal voice.
Greetings of love. Pamela here, and approaching 27 years. Should be a daddy, but still working on that. Still trying to help my mum and family understand God. It's taken 27 years. And whoever else I run into, I give it a go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, panelists. If you have questions, that's kind of how our format's going to be today. Question, answer, expansion, following along with that. So if you have any questions, at the beginning, if you want to just write them down and put them here, I'll go get them and try to fit those in. But I think we'll probably have time at the end. And if you have something that really, just stand up and shout, hey, hey, me, and we'll try to see that and fit in. Because I guess the intent of our process, our time together until about noon or 12:30, wherever that is to learn a little about what revealing God is. And I guess I'd like to start with the panelists. Is that okay if I call you panelists? All right. Baba has been talking recently, immediately, and for a long time about revealing God. Just to bring us all whole, what have you heard? What does Baba tell you, or what do you understand when Baba says, reveal me to the world? Just kind of help me picture what you're carrying around so that we can all maybe start seeing the same thing. Because I believe that one way of revealing God for one person in one part of the world, Brahman, might be different than the others. So carrying around with you that preconceived idea of what revealing God is, could you please share with us what that means to you? How do you see what Baba's been telling us? How do you put that into words so that we might be able to enter into your mind as Baba has been speaking to you? Who would like that one first, Pam?
Thank you. For me, when I feel like someone's revealing God to me, as they see me, they can see what I'm feeling. And they listen so deeply that I'm able to bring out things so I can hear myself and understand myself. I think Daddy said it so well today, that when you understand yourself, you really can understand others. So I look at this story of revealing God from the small, that when we, the small Brahmins, learn to see and feel and hear each other, then we'll have this talent to be able to see and feel and hear what other souls who are outside this circle need and feel. There's no use to give the sandwich to the guy or the woman in the desert who just needs water. So that's the first thing for me, is that. Is that the kind of thing you want?
Were there lots more numbers or just that first thing?
What?
You said that was the first thing.
Yes, but we'll let other panel members,
Okay,
come up
very
with a couple.
generous.
Thank you.
Very good. Sister Anna, would you like to respond to what it is that you understand when Baba says reveal God? What is he saying? What does that mean to you?
So the first thing that comes in my mind is that I have to reveal God to myself, who really God is. And of course we all have some experiences, more or less, and of course deep enough to pull us into this path when we start. But then I realize that revealing God to the self is a constant process, and I think this is where my focus is, how to get to know Baba more and more.
So first understanding Baba is the process of revealing God for you. First understanding Baba is the process of revealing God for you. Great. Okay. Gotcha. Sister Ruth, you ready?
For me, I understand it's revealing truth. So the first step for me is actually understanding and recognizing my truth. Then I can connect with Baba as truth, experience Baba as truth, and then others will be able to experience from me. So when I listen to a task like that from Baba, it's just really returning to the first lesson and second lesson and working on that. Recognizing what I have to offer in the sense of how Baba can use me as an instrument. We've heard that I is... Sister Denise last night said that I, the consciousness of I, is actually leads to waste action. So I as an instrument, how can I totally surrender, experience Baba, and then give others an experience? For me personally, that's important, because where I took Gyan and where I'm on service now, I don't have ability to communicate through words very strongly. In Malaysia, many people speak English, but many don't. In Korea, I have a language handicap. And so very much it's to do with experience, it's to do with feelings and subtle subtle things. So for me to develop my truth and my understanding of Baba, my recognition of Baba, as Anna was saying, so that then I can be an instrument to give others an experience. That's the way I see the soul, revealing Baba.
Well, if I may quote, "Now reveal to the world that God has come. The sound should spread that the Father has come, and it is God's knowledge being given by God Himself. The task being done here is God's task. People like the knowledge, but very few realize that it is God Himself that has come and is giving this knowledge. This sound will make them come closer to the Father, and automatically they will experience the Father. You came close and said, 'I have to meet Him.' In the same way, they, the rest of the world, must now realize and come running and claim their inheritance from God the Father. My take is that the heat has been turned up on our task. In my churnings, personally, I believe that the name of the game of what we're doing is dramatically changing. Before, for the last 70 years, it strikes me that we as the Brahmin family have been on a fishing expedition, essentially looking for other Brahmins. And as you all know, if you're a Brahmin, it really doesn't matter how awful the teacher in front of you is, you're going to become a Brahmin. However, 6.49999 billion people out there aren't Brahmins. And Baba wants us to introduce him to them. And quite rightly, the instrument that is going to be used to introduce him to them is us. And we should, as my fellow panelists have said, ensure that the instrument itself is fully in its working order, honed up, sharp, powerful, glittering. But then, once we've done that, the question is, how do we use that instrument? And that's where the scary stuff begins.
Just to follow up on that, Anthony, you can hold the mic. Please elaborate on scary, if you wouldn't mind what that means, and just follow my thinking. Baba has said time is short. Okay, is that? Have you heard that?
I have heard that.
Yes, time is short. It means very little is left, and if what has to happen in the confluence age is that everybody gets to know their Father. And that's a word that we're going to use as revelation. Is that okay? That means that revelation is very close. And if Baba has also said that he does it through us, that means that you are very close to being the way you're supposed to be. Is that fair kind of thinking?
I feel like you're leading the witness, but please go on.
Very much so. So combining those two things, who are you right now in that sense that God is going to use me to not give an experience one-on-one, because I think the four of you would be very busy in a short time to reach everybody that way. I don't think that's how it's going to happen, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there are some clues that we know from Gyan generally, and there are clues from what Baba has recently been telling us. First of all, I regard perfection, otherwise known in the Hindi as the Karmatit stage. I don't regard that as being according to some description in the book of Karmatitness. I regard perfection as being who I really am, and I can't be any more or less than that. And so, as I think was alluded to earlier in the others' little talks, really working on making sure that I'm real is good. But one of the things that I think we must all realize is that we are all absolutely and completely qualified for the task at hand. So if you have any nervousness about it, forget that. You are qualified. You're qualified on the basis of standard karma theory, that is to say, you're sitting in that seat as a direct result of every single thing that's happened to you and decision you've ever made in the entire kalpa, and plop, here you are today now, and it just so happens you're standing in front of the task given by God himself. So there, you can't help it. It's the way you've been acting for the last 4,990 odd years. And the other clue to me that Baba's been giving us is in not this Murli, but I think the last one. He told us clearly that revelation will come when, and this is me kind of translating it through my sieve of a brain, when we take care of each other, when we uplift each other, when we look after each other. And I can kind of see that, because one of the things I've realized in my short years in this particular birth is that pretty well nobody listens to a thing anybody says. I don't know whether you noticed that. And if you do listen, you forget about it about 5 minutes after you've listened to it. And that's a sweeping generalization. But if that's the case, then clearly telling anyone anything is not going to do it. And just on the basis of mathematics alone, speaking one-on-one certainly isn't where it's at. But Baba's really, I think, given us a fantastic clue in terms of just doing the doings, the task, sort of with each other. And it's all about being one, being together and uplifting each other.
I'd like to chuck in on that one. I had an auntie when I was younger who I used to go and visit, and she was a missionary in New Guinea, a Baptist missionary. And she used to make me sit on the bed and pray to the photographs of the natives that she turned into Christians. These beautiful, amazing natives who would have been dressed in headdress were now dressed from head to toe and covered up and turned into hopeful white people. And I didn't really like it. I even knew then that I didn't like that. And in my own country we have a really sad situation with Aboriginal people where they also got Christianized and taken away from their own indigenous, beautiful religion they have. And this is something that I feel quite strongly about, and sometimes I'm confused about it as well, because when Baba says, reveal me, and I sometimes get frightened because I see sometimes that sends us into a frenzy of speaking and trying to force someone to understand that they are a soul, or the cycle is round and it's 5,000 years. And I was reminded of that the other night when I was helping a brother who was quite sick, and so I got to sit on the lounges where the fancy people sit, and there was a general in the Indian Army there. He's not a Brahmin. He was there to experience Baba coming and Baba speaking. And I didn't notice that he was a general in the army until I started feeling him watching me write my notes. And I write notes in the form of pictures because that's the way I reflect knowledge back through visual. And then Manvinda whispered in my ear that that's the general, and I started to watch him watch us. He spent the whole night looking at our interactions, looking at Baba, and I started to think, this guy is training thousands of men to fight and protect, and Baba is training thousands of us to love and feel and intuit and bring virtue and beauty and power into the world. And I watched him melt through the evening and really start to see the wonder that, which is the reason why I came to Baba, because I started to see that wonder rather than the model of the missionary wonder, you know, make everyone like me. So for me, it's essential, as Anthony and everyone has said too, is to first be naked in front of Baba and allow myself to feel my total true self. And it's only then I'm able to be worthy, really, to help someone else feel their true nature and not try and, that whole idea of power versus force. I will force you to understand this versus the experience of my own power. Is that Francois who's just entered the hall? He reveals Baba everywhere with his shiny forehead. So that's just a point. Finished. Thank you.
Anna Ruth, something percolating?
Just to share that I'm aware of the big task that's ahead of us, but I'm also aware that we have to be realistic about where we're at and what we can do. Not to lack the courage, because Baba will help, you know, whatever we choose to do, but to recognize that we are where we're at, in the situation we're at, for a reason, and we can serve in our way authentically by focusing on that. Yes, to do service and be part of the big team, if you like, but to be realistic about having a firm foundation. Otherwise, I've experienced that I've tried to be something I'm not. I've tried to copy. I've tried to see what I like in someone and be that. And unless you have the foundation and the understanding, then you can reach a point where you think, I can't do this. So not to not have that aim to do exactly what Baba says, but to take it step by step and be sure that what you're revealing is honest. For me, this has been important on my journey, and to encourage others to do that. Certainly in Asia, there can be a tendency to do things out of compulsion, not from love. And if we...
Why is that, do you think?
Why?
The question was, why are they doing things out of compulsion?
Rather than love?
Yes.
I'm not too sure, I'm still thinking about this, but my feeling is it's cultural samskara, it's a way of doing. For example, in Confucianism, there's filial piety, there's obedience. And if I'm working from that samskara, and I was to start with, Daddy says do this, Baba says do this. And yes, you have to do that to a certain extent, and then let Baba fill the love and experience. But if you don't get that reinforcement, then you find that you're just being very ordinary. And you haven't got the power to give experience and reveal Baba. But yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. And it's worked actually in the cultures for many years. People being obedient, showing respect because of status, age. Yeah, it has worked to a certain extent, but for Brahmins it doesn't. So I just wanted to add that. Yes, be aware of the big task. My personal feeling at the moment is to do what I feel Baba wants me to do. I'm really aiming on being totally surrendered so that Baba opens a door, says, do this, I do it. I don't really look at how it fits into the big task so much as this is what Baba wants me to do, this is the need at the time. And this little revelation will be part of a bigger one, if that makes sense.
Great, thank you. Anna, are you thinking of something, or it's okay?
I think you didn't finish your thinking before. What you wanted to conclude is that we have a huge task and we have to fulfill it in a short time. And in other words, we have to be perfect in a very short time, something like this. We have to be... So, I always enjoy playing with this thought of perfection, although it's the highest thought, perfection. But when I remember doing this, I always have very nice results. Making a rehearsal of being perfect for 1 hour or for a couple of hours or for 1 day. And of course this makes me become more conscious of the qualities that perfection consists of. And I find that in Brahmin life, one of the sins, I would say, is to make extraordinary things ordinary. And in order to reveal Baba, I find that my responsibility is to remember that every aspect of this Brahmin life is extraordinary, and it's my duty to become a real Brahmin. My duty means this is what is going to reveal Baba. If every aspect of Brahmin life that I follow has this extraordinariness, this magic, and when I play with this thought of perfection, I see how things become very easy. And I know it sounds very theoretical, perfection, and very too high to start. But when you start and you start thinking, how would it feel to be perfect in this situation now? How would it feel to be perfect in my Amrit Vela? What a perfect Amrit Vela be? Then you have hopes, you get hopes, you don't feel disheartened. Because my experience especially the last 6 months in Lebanon, is that there are so many people, and they're so open, although it's a Muslim country. And every aspect of our interaction with people should reveal something. And if not now, when shall I play with this thought of perfection? So...
Okay, great. I'm going to try to put a couple thoughts together and present a conclusion, and would like you to respond to that. But when we go to Shantivan, my understanding is people like that meeting. There's something good about that when they go. That there's a relationship that they have with Baba, there's a feeling in that, and that's why we come and that's why we meet Baba. And so he's powerful to be able to give 10, 15,000 souls a feeling, an experience. And I know that it was very nice when he comes in Om Shanti Bhavan, and I've heard it was very nice in Meditation Hall. And what I'm going to offer is that Baba is very powerful. It doesn't matter what space he's in, but he's able to give a lot of his qualities, vibrations to the souls that he would like to. Okay, and I'm going to offer that I don't think we've seen how powerful he is. Okay, I also have been led to believe that we are becoming perfect and are instruments of God. And therefore, somehow, in a very short time, all souls of the world will have that understanding or recognition or experience. And so the process of talking, experiencing, being truthful is critical in our own way, but it is insufficient for revelation, revealing God to the world. Therefore, I think, or I'm going to propose, I'm not sure if this is, I thought, but I don't think, that because we are going to go through our process individually, and because Baba's very powerful, that there will be a time when he says, okay, let me throw the switch. He will give all the qualities he's got, send it through the perfect souls who are called the Brahmakumaris, and we will all glow. Big lights just floating around. And everybody will see this, it will make the news, and there's 900,000 orbs of light, walking around. And people will ask, where's it come from? They will go to the website, they will come to the centers, and they will say, oh my gosh, this is God. Okay? That's what I'm proposing is going to happen. That you're just going to turn into this orb of light, and people are going to do a little investigation. The newspapers will pick it up, and that'll be the end of it. It'll be in a couple days. I hear a little tittering of laughter out there, which kind of indicates that maybe that's not your thought of how it's going to happen. What is your thought about how it's going to happen? How is our specific efforts on an individual level and the unlimited power of God going to combine? And actually, the question I want to ask you is, how are people going to experience their moment of revelation? Anthony's reaching for the microphone, so tell us a story, Anthony.
Yeah, I was reaching for the microphone so that I could give my dear, sweet, divine sisters time to think this one through. I'm reminded of a story that may or may not be true, and there are probably people out in the audience who know this story better than I. But the story is the story of the 100th monkey, and it's called the 100th monkey syndrome. Could I have a hands up of who knows about the 100th monkey syndrome? We have a few, but not enough for me to not tell the story. So, for those of you who know the story, I apologize for your impending frustration when I tell it wrong, and the fact that I'm telling something that you already know, and I understand that it may or may not be actually true. However, in the world that I inhabit, which is the world of commerce, of advertising, we actually rely on the 100th monkey syndrome to get the latest craze into the hands of the masses. The latest craze is the iPod, I think, right now. So, this is how it works, and the way for telling this is to tell you the story of the group of scientists in a small group of islands, an atoll, off the coast, quite a way off the coast of one end of Japan. I don't know which end. They were, I believe, scientists from Europe, from possibly England, because I think the results of this study, if you can call it that, this phenomenon, were written up in Nature magazine a long time ago now, about the 1920s. And this is the story the way I remember it. These scientists were observing various different flora and fauna, the animals in kingdom there. And one group of scientists was particularly interested in the local monkey population on one of these islands. The monkeys did in fact inhabit all the islands, but the other scientists were doing other things with other animals on the other islands. So, the story goes that these scientists were observing a group, a family of monkeys. These monkeys were generally, I think, matriarchal in process. And the idea was that mummy and the children would root around for food, and the food that they would eat was normally kind of the roots and the yams and this sort of thing. And one day, one of the groups of scientists observed that a monkey was rooting around close to the shore. And normally the general received eating mechanism was to grab the root and stick it in mouth, dirt and all, which couldn't have been that pleasant. But there it was, that's what they did, as best they could. But in this particular day, the monkey dropped the root and it tumbled down into the ocean, the seashore, where it was automatically somewhat cleaned and salt added. Sounds delightful, doesn't it? So anyway, the monkey went, retrieved this particular root, stuffed it in her mouth, and lo and behold, had a very pleasant experience. So pleasant indeed that she started making it her habit to do this. And as any good mother will tell you, when you learn a new trick, you teach it to your offspring. And so it wasn't long before the mother had taught it to her offspring. As a little side story, I will tell you that the male section of the population of monkeys apparently were the last to catch on. Perhaps that's an apocryphal part of the story. However, this behavior was closely observed by the scientists. And there was quite a large population of monkeys all over this atoll. I don't know how many miles across it was. But one day, when this group of monkeys was gradually growing and growing in terms of having this knowledge and this habit and this activity of cleaning and salting their roots, one day, on a particular day, and it seemed at a particular hour, all of a sudden like that, every monkey on the island started doing the same thing. Now, you might think that's good, a little strange, somewhat amusing, but here's the kicker. The scientists on the little island over here where all this was happening were in contact with other scientists literally hundreds of miles away. And on that very same day, apparently at the very same hour, the scientists on the other islands observed that all the monkeys on all the other islands started doing exactly the same thing. And that phenomenon was called the 100th monkey syndrome. The idea is that a small group gathers momentum and in terms of an activity, and there comes a moment where suddenly everyone is just doing it. In fact, in our sociological situation ourselves, we can kind of observe this, as I kind of alluded to when I started this little story. We can observe this in the world of fashion and the world of generally, trying to sell brands. And in fact, all the activities of commerce are to try and create some kind of 100th monkey syndrome so that suddenly everybody will be buying your stuff. Now, I tell you this story to offer a potential method whereby what 900,000 souls, which is really rather a drop in the bucket, what those 900,000 souls are doing. Perhaps we are the first of the 100 monkeys, and suddenly it will just become the right thing to do, to have the understanding that I'm a soul and not a body.
Are you saying, Brother Anthony, that one day everybody will be getting up at 4 o'clock and taking afternoon naps?
The mind boggles. No, I don't think so. It won't be like that.
Okay. Well, thank you for the time that allowed the sisters to think about their answer. That was much appreciated by them, I'm sure. And they would love to now share their thoughts of the experience of how this process might actually work. Microphone, we didn't hear that. We didn't hear that.
I was so much enjoying Anthony's story. It was so dramatic that I didn't think at all. I was so absorbed. So.
I'm going to just bring it down to the little picture yet again. For me, I was just thinking about every time I have the power to face something that's a little scary, every time I have the courage to move into an area that's new, every time I have the feeling to not be irritated by somebody and see that as a reflection of my own unseen stuff, every time I try and put some of Baba's deep gyan into practice, I recognise that it's this repetitive development of my soul and my mind. Because I've noticed how I'm really good in emergencies lately, and how when something bad is going wrong, example, a little kid got his arm caught in the glass door at the airport. Everybody else was screaming and the kid was screaming, and I just quietly went over and saw what to do because I didn't involve myself emotionally, and that's practice because I've lived in lots of Brahmin households. You learn to start detaching and seeing what is it that I'm here for, what's my part in this moment. And my part might be to hold someone who's sad. My part might be to take hold of a conversation that's going a bit crazy. You know, some other Brahman's gone off, a little bit off track, so I might have to pop in and settle something.
Like here?
Yeah, like here. No, not at all. My part might be to be very quiet and go still and create a beautiful atmosphere where there's something else is going on. So all of these practices will build my inner spiritual muscles, if you like, till the times when I can be really used in any circumstance for Baba. And this is the beautiful time now. This is the intimate time. This is the small situations times where amongst ourselves we practice these arts and become very good at them so that we can be really useful when there's trouble in the world. I mean, there is trouble, and obviously people live in trouble. I live in Australia where the beaches are amazing, so I'm hoping that I'll be useful at some stage. That's all for me.
Ruth?
I haven't really thought too much about how it's all going to end, but one thing that touched me in London, Dr. Anand from Madhaban was there, and he was sharing some points he'd taken from Murali's, and someone asked the question about how would Madhaban be protected when there was civil war in India? How would it be when people were flying and dropping bombs? Madhaban was safe. And what he said, that Baba had said in a Murali, was that when the pilots flew over Madhaban, they would just see light and have visions of angels, and they wouldn't drop bombs here. So this would be how it was protected. So in terms of seeing us as light, yes, I think that'll have to happen. I think what I need to do really is just make sure I'm as close to being, yes, I'm perfect, I'm as perfect as I'm going to be at that point, but perfection, in my understanding, it varies from moment to moment. My potential at the end varies according to my stage at the time. So I just try to be the best I can, surrender, let Baba use me however he wants, and I will reveal Baba, however that is. I like the idea of being a light, or Sister Denise mentioned UFOs. Great, if that's what's needed, fine. But as Pamela was saying, I've got to be ready for whatever Baba wants of me in those final moments, and be there for others who are not so ready.
May I go out of turn?
No, there are no turns.
I was just thinking of a few stories that when Baba was revealed through a Brahmin for me. And one of them was when I was about 24 years old, and I was really, my self-esteem was like a puddle of green slime. And I felt really, really sad and really, really useless. And I thought, I'll pop in and see Daddy Kamarka. So I went into her room, which I tended to do a lot when I was younger, and she was available. And I sat on the lounge with her, and I pretended to be all right. You know how you do that? You try and present a good face, and so I was presenting a good face, and Daddy started to give me drishti, and she put her hand on my cheek and said I had the face of an angel, which wasn't really true at the time. But she saw that vision, and she had that beautiful, clear, clean view of my soul. And I started to cry. And in those tears, I felt like someone was speaking to me so deeply and so originally that I could start to feel that. I could put a new memory in place of that sad memory of really not being able to see myself. So many experiences that we've had from our beautiful seniors and Madhaban Nawasis quietly, these people who sit in corners stirring milk, and when they hand you a milk in their eyes, they really see you and you really feel the beauty. It fills us with these new memories about who we are, and I think that's how God gets revealed, in the small ways, which really fills the soul quite deeply. There you go. Thank you, Daddy. What about you?
Yeah, what about me?
Can I just add one thing? I was just thinking about being an angel and an orb of light. One thing I'm pretty sure is that it's going to be pretty boring as an angel. Yeah, no, it will be. I warn you. It's going to be completely ordinary for you, not for them. Have you noticed? Because I'm sure all of you have had the experience of acting the role of the angel in your lives already. People have come up to you and said, oh, you know, my life changed when you did that. Imagine, what was it like for Daddy Kumarka when she touched Pamela's cheek and said, you have a face of an angel? It was very ordinary. This is the sort of thing Daddy does all of the time. She will not have remembered the moment. For the receiver of the angelic moment, this is a seminal moment. This is an orb moment, an orb of light moment. So one thing I'm certain of is that being an angel will be boring. How about that?
I must be a pretty good angel because I'm pretty boring, so that's about me. So
well, maybe I should
must touch a lot of people.
Maybe I should say it will be ordinary. Of course, it's not boring,
Okay.
but you know what I mean. It'll be your life. It'll be you. Natural. Yeah, natural. That's a much nicer word. Okay. Natural.
We'll go with natural. Because you are naturally a Brahmin, and you are spending your day becoming perfect and all those things, share with us what your natural activities are now that are going to make you the instrument that Baba wants you to be, so that his task of revealing himself through you will take place. And these are probably very mundane things, but is there anything you're focusing on? And I'm going to put a time on this, not you, Anthony, but the 3 months that Baba said. I particularly think that this is a important time, and we're already into the second month of that. Is there anything you've been thinking about this year, this season, these Murlis, that is allowing you to focus more on what it is that will make you natural as the soul that you are, the angel you'll be?
To make big things small and not the small things big.
I'm practicing the power of the moment and not allowing the past to feed my view of the present. And the other thing is, if I say yes to whatever brings in front of me, like I was offered to take care of someone recently, and it's been the most beautiful journey for me. Yeah, cancer really improves your life. It makes you really go deep, and so I'm very grateful to be able to say yes and receive the fruits of whatever that service gives, because it'll always bring something special. Unless it's washing up, of course.
I'm a person that is actually unable to retain information for more than about 5 seconds, and I'm unable to do anything particularly unless, or successfully particularly, unless I can measure it at that very moment. And so any plan that I would have that would require me at the end of the day to review to see whether I had done whatever it was that I thought I should be doing in order to become karmatit wouldn't work because I just wouldn't be able to remember, and then I'd probably be too tired and too lazy to really do the chart. Any of you like that? Anyway, so for me, I have been concerned when Baba told us that it was 3 months that we had to get straight. And I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what I could do and measure on a second-by-second basis that would allow me to transcend all my sanskaras. And my conclusion was, and this had to be something that I could say, am I doing this now? No? Okay, check, change. Am I doing it now? No? Check, change. Am I doing it now? Yes, great, well done, keep it going. So really on a moment-by-moment basis. And for me, the transcendent attitude, actions and activities that I believe that I should make sure I do over the next 3 months, which will force my sanskaras, many of which I may not have a great deal of idea about, to just wither on the vine and die, become useless, fall to the ground and turn to dust, never to rise again. My churnings for myself is that I must at every moment be sweet and be soft. So if I'm being sweet now, and if I'm being soft now, I'm okay. If I'm not okay. So let me change and be sweet and be soft. It's my belief that if I can continue to do that, if I can maintain that from now until the end of March, that a great deal of change will have automatically taken place in myself.
My efforts to work on the mind, because the concentration power is not so good. So I'm working on a point that Baba made. Point, if you can't manage the point, then pure thought. So again, I need to do this more frequently than I'm doing at the moment to be totally successful. But in Madhuban, I arrived yesterday, this is my aim, is to put the brake on, and if I can't keep the point in front of me, then pure thoughts rather than letting the ordinary or other thoughts emerge. Because I enjoy letting the mind be creative. I really enjoy that. But a lot of what the mind creates is not powerful and not elevated. So just to have more discipline, more concentration power. That's what I'm working on. That'll have a huge effect on my old sanskaras.
Okay. More? Yes.
Also, the last few months I found myself more busy than ever in the Brahmin life. I would say at the cost a little bit of Amrit Vela, and of course we have the attitude, and this is the reality, that everything is for benefit, because it was a good reminder for me how important Amrit Vela is. And together with Baba's highlighting on Amrit Vela and how to burn our sanskaras and have the cremation of our sanskaras, I found it as an opportunity, being here, but also Baba giving the aim, to bring newness and freshness and fire in Amrit Vela. And I want to make sure, and actually it's already happening, that every time I finish any meditation, but especially in the morning, that I feel that I have dealt with something, whether I'm aware of what this thing is or not. In other words, that the Amrit Vela is really of quality, and that gives this enthusiasm that we're supposed to have in this Brahmin life. And I always felt that the foundation and was Amrit Vela, and I always paid attention on yoga. But I feel very glad that I became aware, and I was reminded that that's it.
Great, thank you. Is that how are we doing on time? Are we still talking? Are we still meditating? Are there any questions that are coming up from the audience? Would you like to come forward, put some energy into your voice so that we could hear you? Yes. So the question, paraphrasing it, is how do we keep our intoxication? And offering that intoxication is a big part of the revelation. I'll start them out easy. Are you intoxicated? Yes. Yes, we got some good answers. So that you're all intoxicated, how does intoxication feel? What keeps you intoxicated? And how do you manifest that in your days? Is that okay? Very good, thank you.
Soul adventure. Always discovering something about yourself and discovering something about others. And I think intoxication has different flavors. There's happiness and there's love and there's peace. And a peaceful intoxicated person doesn't look as exciting as a happy intoxicated person. So I don't know what I'm talking about right now. I'm very
She's
intoxicated
so intoxicated
right now.
that she just really kind of loses track of...
I was listening to Rumi. Rumi was very intoxicated when he talked about God. He was so intoxicated, he called it, I am drunk in the intoxication of your love. I don't maintain that type of intoxication all the time. I hate to let you all down by that. But I know that if I stay invested in being a soul discovery, then I have some form of amazing feeling. Yeah.
An amazing feeling, great.
Very much connected with that Pamela is sharing. Exploring the self and exploring the unlimitedness of Baba. Of course, this connected with stillness and concentration. And so I find that when my concentration is real, I'm so recharged, and everything looks new. The Brahmin life is new. The people around you, they're new. The service you're doing, your routine is like new. So I think that, again, everything comes back to how concentrated you can be.
For me, it's the drama. I love the drama and the magic. I just love it when you see that's Baba's magic. And that's what really keeps me going. For me, when I first came to Gyan, I didn't have much faith when I first came to Madhavan in Baba. Brahma Baba I couldn't look at, I didn't like him. But But it's just magic what happened, just how Baba helps you. And I see him helping others, and that's wonderful as well. And one of the most intoxicating things for me is when someone I've had connection with says, oh, Baba's magic. Like my mother's a new BK. And I call her and, oh, Baba's magic. And it's like, yes. That's so intoxicating when someone else sees the magic as well. That's what keeps me going. It's like Baba's right there. You're just the instrument. He's getting everything done, and everything will be fine. So that keeps me intoxicated. If I can find a magic moment every day, it's a great day.
Pamela, I think you had a thought. Would you like to share it?
I did. Thank you, Anthony. Depression, sadness, fear and sorrow have been my companions as well. And I haven't always been intoxicated. And I thought I should speak up for those feelings that are hidden under the carpet. That, because in this topic we've only talked of all the amazing, beautiful things. But depression and all those other things have been an amazing help to me as well in my life to understand myself and people, and that intoxication always isn't possible, and sometimes you have to go through a bit of deep surgery on the self, and that brings a different form of soul beauty, different forms of results. And if anyone out there does suffer from depression and you get stuck, then it's nice to really look for somebody who you can see and knows how to understand the pain of the soul, that is very good and is good for you. And you can find them. They're all amongst the hiding out in the Brahmin family, these people who understand sorrow and that the disempowered self. So it's very important to know that as much intoxication we can all have, we can also have the other side of the coin, and that is as powerful and as mystical and beautiful when we turn that around and really free ourselves from that. So thank you very much, Anthony.
I was just reminded that, of course, the other side of intoxication is a hangover, so I suppose that's what you're talking about, the hangover of life. My own journey into this moment really has been more through the intellect than through the heart. I would like to make it perfectly clear that the reason why I'm in Gyan is because it makes sense. And for me, making sense has always been important. I don't know what I would be thinking, where I would be, what I would be doing if I wasn't in Gyan, because take a look at the world now, and man, I don't know how anybody not in Gyan can survive. I really don't. And without being incredibly angry, incredibly scared, incredibly frustrated, incredibly on drugs or whatever it is. And of course we see that the world is incredibly all of those things. So I thank my lucky stars that I have the ultimate context within which to, clarity of context, within which to place myself, which is of course the understanding of where I am in space and time, what I am as a soul, and who I belong to. I belong to God, and the cause of my second intoxication, which isn't, funnily enough, the feeling of belonging to God, but the feeling of belonging to you, to the family. The family has been a very, very strong attractor for me. I'm, as you may gather from my accent, I come from England, and in England we're all pretty messed up, actually. And we don't actually like people very much until we know them for about 8 years, just in case you didn't know, if you were wondering about all those English people. So I was a fairly reserved person, and I have to tell you that my experience in this family for the first 8 years was pretty terrible, actually. But it had nothing to do with you. It had to do with me and my own degree of self-respect and all that mumbo-jumbo. But over the years, I the tentacles of my life and the tentacles of your life, we've combined, and we are friends. And I was just 2 nights ago, three nights ago, reflecting on my current stay in Madhuban. I have gone from one deep conversation and sharing to another over a period of however long it is that I've been here, which has been quite a few weeks now. And I was thinking, gosh, other people's lives out there in the big wide world, they don't. I mean, you think about the Lokik people. We don't talk to each other, we don't share, we don't connect. But we do. We really do. And if you're not connecting and sharing, don't worry, we just wait 8 years and it'll all be all right. And I reflect back on my connections with the family and with my deepest, dearest, most beautiful friends that are in this family. Such interesting, amazing human beings. I could not want anything more than what God has provided me with in terms of this family. And then the final piece of my intoxication is really just to give myself the chance at any opportunity to see what's going on, what the task is, and that in itself is pretty amazing. It's a bit like living in some kind of science fiction fantasy film or something, and I'm enjoying it a lot. And I think enjoyment and intoxication are kind of interchangeable words here.
Great. Yes, we have another question in the front. That's you.
There's something different. I think this is how Dhammaparnas would take first number New Zealand the father to Bharat.
So having a higher stage and a high stage would reveal to Bharat that God has come. Okay, and Baba has been talking about that. So how much higher should their stage go, do you think?
I think when every thought is with Baba.
Yes. Okay, and I think that's just what Baba said in this last Murli, that all we need is remembrance and that things go easy with that. Great. Did I see another hand? Yes.
I just think about the 100 monkey syndrome that you're telling me.
Yeah, Anthony the monkey.
So, Bob has asked WG about his committee, the 108. Do you think that 108 cognitive yogi syndrome can work all of a sudden to the whole family because it's cognitive?
Okay. 100th monkey, we've add a little for inflation. 108 yogis, do you think that could work the same?
Yes.
The answer he gives is yes.
Because I think that Baba often telling about the power of silence is bigger than the power of science. So that our communication skills and technology cannot fulfill Baba.
Let me, you've stimulated a thought here. Has everybody visited Dadi Prakashmani, Dadi Kumarka this time around? Has everyone gone to see her? If you have, you will have noticed that her normal abilities are somehow not so relevant to her anymore. And really she sits so beautiful and so still, almost sort of not thinking anymore. And I'm very interested in her, very, very interested, because she is still, on this mortal plane, our leader. She is the administrative head of the organization. And it's my observation that she is incredibly important to all of us, and especially to the workings of the family in Bharat. And I am astounded by her ability to lead by her being. And this last time that I was in her presence, just to be in front of her, to look at her, not actually necessarily to even take so much drishti from her, but to just be in that aura was fabulous. And you know, I consider myself a pretty discerning, down-to-earth kind of person. Yet I'm incredibly touched by the subtlety and the power of her presence. And it's, I mean, I was struck by a definition of power. So when you're powerful, you are able, by not doing too much, to get a lot done. When you're more powerful, you do even less, and you get even more done. And when you're really, really, really almighty, you do nothing at all and get everything done. And here we have an example of a yogi who is doing almost nothing. Yet look what she's achieving in our hearts, and even more importantly, in the hearts of those she doesn't even see, but who are just remembering her example. So that's, in my opinion, the power of one of the 108 yogis that we were talking about.
And if it's okay with one final question? Yes? We'll hear.
Yeah, speaking from a cocoon of the converted, and if we need to do some research, I'm going back to the original purpose of being here, how revelation is going to be, conveyed to us. And we need to do some research on the present group of people who have already been in the Gyan, and we can actually classify type of people who, one I can say is the one with a clean slate, who did not have any religious affiliation, strong affiliation somewhere, and here was terrific knowledge being given to them and instruction. Now we are going out there and you meet a Sufi and you say, God has finally come, and you laugh. What are you talking about? I have been with God and in love with God all the time. And you say God has finally come now. And you say there is a revelation, and he is also a Muslim. And he says, oh, the Quran finally has clearly said that the final revelation was the Quran. And so here again, you are diametrically, sort of telling him to take the Quran and put it on the side and listen to you. Now, what I'm saying is that there are millions of people out there, groups who have their own very deep understanding and outlooks, and they have been there. I don't want to be too long. I just want to, in short, what I'm saying is that the task is definitely nothing less than a miracle, a total miracle will be able to, impact on, because what we have done so far is probably taken the peripheral lot, and we have had this either very lucky souls or people who connected with Baba or with the Dadi so fast, and here they went. But there are billions out there who have this strong, powerful, godly connections. I mean, we must have to admit that they're not out there in the dark. And to reach them and to be able to convert, it's a task that is just too big. I don't know what.
It is a big task, and I'm very happy personally that it's not mine. And I totally agree with you that it's a miracle, and I'm hopeful that all of you would want to practice creating a miracle right now. And if it's okay for us to conclude, then I will show you the power I have. With very little effort, I will have the lights come down, I will have the music come on, I will have you come to attention, I will thank the panelists, and we will practice our miracle at this time. And I promise you that when you're done with this, lunch will await you. So, and we have one word from our sister here.
I would like to thank you because, yes, everything you said was true. There's so many beautiful cultures, and My sister here, when I said to her, "Oh, I hope that's boiled water," she said, "Inshallah." It means she's allowing the country to merge in her where she's staying. And this is the beautiful thing about Brahmins who really see others and respect others. And that's fantastic. So thank you for bringing that point up.
And thank you, Brother Anthony, Sister Ruth, Sister Anna, Sister Pam, Allah, and all of you. So thank you. Reveal God. Om Shanti.